Hi everybody, welcome to the video on points, lines, and planes. This is going to cover the first two little chunks of what we're going to talk about this year. And first we need to talk about the undefined terms. In geometry we have three undefined terms. These undefined terms are undefined because they just are what they are. They're those things that just happen to be, and we give them names and definitions based on what we need them to be. Point, line, and plane. If we look at a point, the best way to do this is I've given you this chart. I'm going to draw the diagram first, then we're going to talk about naming. A point names a location and has no size. It's represented by a dot. And so this would be a point, but a point is not complete unless we put something by it so we can identify it. This would be the name. So the name of a point is going to be a capital letter. And for example, in this that we've drawn here, this is going to be point P. This is what we would say. So we'll put that in quotes. That is point P. That's what we call it. Let's talk about a line for a minute. A line is a straight path that has no thickness and extends forever. We show forever in this case by putting arrowheads on either end. And we're going to call it a couple of different things. I'm going to label my diagram here with this script letter L. And I'm also going to put a couple of points on this line. Right there and there. I'm going to call them X and Y. And when we name a line, we can name it a couple of different ways. We can name it one by a lowercase letter, or the other way that we can name it is the more common way that we're going to name it, by 2 points on the line. Notice 2 points on the line. So for example, we could call this line L or XY, and I'm going to put a little line above the X and the Y to show that it's a line, or I could call it YX. The order does not particularly matter in that case, but we need to make sure that we have the little line above it to tell us that that's what it is. It's a line, as opposed to a segment or array. It's a line. Let's talk about a plane for a minute. A plane is going to be shown usually using like a parallelogram sort of thing like this. And the features of this plane are going to be these points that are on it. And so I'm going to strew a couple of points around here, like A, B, C. And on here also I'm going to put a little script, and I'm going to try my best to do a little script R. Okay? When we name a plane is going to be named a couple of different ways. One, a script, capital letter, or 2, 3 points not on a line. Hopefully you can see where this is going. So we could call this plane, and I'm going to try my best at the script R again, plane R, or plane ABC, or CBA, because A, B, and C are not on the same line. Notice they're sort of in a triangle, so they're not in a straight line. That brings me to my next point, no pun intended, collinear versus non-collinear. When we talk about collinear versus non-collinear, I have a line here that looks something like this, and we're going to call these just a couple of points out here. I'm going to stick another point out here. Collinear. They would be collinear. They're on the same line. Like cooperative, you're in the same group or working toward the same goal. Collinear is on the same line. And therefore, non-collinear is not on the same line. It makes sense. Collinear, same line. Cooperative, same goal. Collinear, same line. Non-collinear, not on the same line. Coplanar is going to look the same. And if I steal the configuration from up above, coplanar, same plane. Non-coplanar, if I had A and B and then C out here, so we would say over here A, B, C are coplanar. Over here we'd say A, B, C not coplanar or non-coplanar. Okay, so that's what this looks like. If we look at a real life example of this, it's going to be referring to the design of the Beijing National Stadium, and this is kind of the outside wall, and I've drawn in a couple of shapes to kind of show us how this is going to happen. If we name 4 coplanar points, well, what I'm trying to show you here is that these thick black lines denote a plane, and I've got C, M, N, K. This is supposed to be a script R. It didn't really come out that well, so I apologize for that. So we can name 4 coplanar points. So we could say K, N, M, C are coplanar. And if we're going to name 3 lines, notice I've got this little triangle kind of a configuration here. So I'm going to say AC is a line because it's this blue one. We could also say, and I'm being sure to note at the top that it's a line, BC is a line, and as is AB. Perfect. Okay, so that's the general gist of this. Notice I've named lines with 2 points. Skip this for right now. We're going to talk about that in class. Segments and rays. Along with lines are segments and rays because not everything extends forever. Okay, and so a segment, endpoint, ray, opposite rays, all of these things have to do with those things that don't necessarily go on forever. A segment, also called a line segment, that's key to remember, is the part of a line consisting of 2 points and all the points between them. We're going to name it by the 2 endpoints. So for example, if it doesn't go on forever, it could look something like this, and I could put AB, and I would call that segment AB, or just AB with a little segment over the top. If, for example, I had a line and I had like C and D in the middle, CD would just be the segment or part of that line. Notice there's a difference between that and line CD. The endpoints are the capital letters. C-A-B. So if I've got 2 points here, I'll just go straight down the alphabet. The endpoints are where it stops. Okay, so the capital letters here would be E or F would be the endpoints. So those are endpoints. Okay, a ray is a part of a line that starts at an endpoint and extends forever in one direction. So it's going to start in one little spot, it has one endpoint, and then it goes through to forever. It looks like this. Think of the sun's rays, okay? They come down on the earth. These are rays. And in geometry, a ray looks like this. Boom. Endpoint like the sun goes out forever. EF, I'm just going to go straight down the alphabet. G, H. When I name this, its endpoint and any other point on the ray. So I would call this ray GH or GH with a little ray above it. Could I say HG as a ray? No, I can't. Because, notice, the endpoint is above G because G is the endpoint. Notice that distinction. Has to start with the endpoint because that's where it's coming from. All right? The last thing we're going to talk about is opposite rays. Opposite rays are exactly what they sound like. They're rays that go in opposite directions of one another. So the key to this is drawing a little diagram. I'm going to draw one ray. Let's just name it GM. We need to draw the ray going the opposite way of that, but they're going to connect at a common endpoint because that's the definition. They have a common endpoint. So the common endpoint is going to be G. So GM, that's a ray, and GF are called opposite rays. And that's all there is to it. That's the basic layout of what we're going to be talking about: points, lines, and planes, segments, rays, endpoints, things like that, and naming them. That's the first chunk. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.